This is the new NANLUX Evoke 1200B bicolor LED light.
CineD, your digital cinema tech resource, supported by B&H and CVP.
Hi, this is Nino from CineD. We are here back at IBC 2022 to be exact. It's nice to be back in Amsterdam.
It's really nice to be back.
And I'm here at NANLIGHT with Luke from Nangguang. Did I get that right?
That is correct, yeah. So I'm from Nangguang. My specific role is I'm the European and UK marketing manager for NANLIGHT. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the Evoke 1200B from NANLUX. So just to break it down in terms of how we...
Wait. Just 1 second. Let's take it step by step.
Okay.
One thing about the names, because a lot of people are a little bit confused.
Yeah.
So what is NANLIGHT, what is NANLUX, and what is Nangguang?
Of course. So Nangguang is the parent company. So we have 30 years heritage. And within that 30 years heritage, we started to break down the different segments of the market. And we said to ourselves, the amateur through to the prosumer would be NANLIGHT products. And that's where we specify that portfolio of products. And then the NANLUX products is the top end, okay? So in terms of how the company works, Nangguang, NANLIGHT, NANLUX, and NANLINK. And NANLINK really sits in between both of those and creates the connection in terms of controlling aspects of both of those. So to give anybody an idea, that's how we break it down. So hopefully that kind of gets away any confusion there could be in how we're structured.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, we're talking about a professional product today,
Yes.
and NANLUX Evoke 1200B. You already had a 1200. Maybe just give us some of the things that those two lights have in common, and then let's focus on what's new.
Of course. I think the main thing in common is we're talking about a pro-end product. So the first thing we need is power, like a huge amount of power to be able to light for the specifications that they're going to film in these scenarios. So you're lighting through big spaces. So 1200 watt at the core, so it's a 1200 watt system. In terms of managing that, we have a separate power pack, separate head. The core things that are the same, the dimensions, the weight. So they both come in at 7.7 kilos, which is 70% of what a 1.8 HMI would be. So if you're thinking about how you're moving around on location, it's way more easier to move something like this around. So yeah, the core metrics are the same. The other thing that's super important is the Ip54 rating. With professional products, where they're going to be used, we never know, but we need to make sure that they can be used in all of those circumstances. So Ip54 on both head and ballast. What you will find is some of the products out there will just be head. That really limits to how you can use it. So we've gone Ip54 on both head and power pack.
What does that mean in practice? Like, what is the weather resistance?
Yeah, so in terms of practice, it means you can take it, you can get it wet, you can get it moist, you can get it covered in dust, it can be kicked about on set.
So the original 1200 was a daylight light, and now the B is bicolor, right?
Yes, that's correct. So the original was daylight at 5,600 Kelvin, and the bicolor is bicolor. So in terms of our range, the CCT will go from 2,700 all the way through to 6,500. And for people that don't understand what that means is, we can shoot scenarios from sunrise all the way through to sunset. And I think the really important thing with this is traditionally when you looked at daylight balanced lights and bicolor lights, there was always a loss, okay? To have the bicolor technology, we were losing around 30 to 40%. There's no longer a loss. So for me, the line we're going for is there's no compromise. You don't have to compromise between your daylight or your bicolor fixture. You grab your bicolor fixture and you can work all the way through that spectrum without any loss.
But that's cool. So it's the same strength for both lights. How do you achieve this? Is it like two sets of LEDs, or?
Yeah, correct. So we have two sets of matrix LEDs, and a set of those will be more towards the tungsten scale, and a set of those will be more towards the cooler scale. In terms of how we drive those, what you tend to have is as you shift between both of those scales, there's always a dip in the middle. We've been able to kind of move away from that dip. So in terms of power loss, there's minimal power loss throughout the whole Kelvin scale, which is great for us. So it is the first bicolor light that is comparable to a daylight balance light.
Very cool. Let's talk about power output, actually. A lot of people, including me, still, like when you tell me something is like a 2K HMI, I know how bright it is. But if you tell me this has 1200 watts as an LED, I have a hard time. So how does it compare?
Yeah, so I think in terms of we break it down, wattage, it's 1200 watts, but let's talk about that in terms of lux. So at 3 meters with our 45-degree director, the lux is basically 61,000 lux, okay? That's a huge amount of lights. Let's talk that into camera parameters, okay? We've tested this up to 1 million frames per second, okay? There's content out there where it's shot at 875 frames per second. You need a huge abundance of light to be able to achieve that. So if the wattage doesn't help you understand the power that's fathomable, 800 So 875,000 frame rates will give you an idea of how much power there is available.
Not only that, that probably means it doesn't flicker at all.
Flicker. So we've had it tested, and the only time there was elements of flicker picking was over 1 million frames per second. I mean, the cameras we use, these are not cinema cameras. These are industrial ballistic cameras testing these. So they would be testing, bullets and all that sort of stuff. So in terms of the camera we're using, it's not something that someone in this CineD remit would use. We had to go beyond that to test the abilities of this camera, which is a real accolade for us, I think.
One of the things that annoy me in older LED lights is sometimes that when you put them to 0.1%, it's really not 0.1%. I mean, some of them, it feels like some lights actually start at 10 or 20% of the output. So this is something you've addressed.
Yeah, correct. We've addressed it. So I think in terms of the jump from 0 to 1, the manufacturer defines that, and that jump can be huge sometimes. So you really have to break it down. So we now have increment steps of 0.01, and you really do notice it, and you step up slowly. And I think in terms of those step ups and those curves, we cover all the 4 main ones: exponent, S-curve, and linear. So we cover all of those and make sure that progression through power output isn't affected in camera. So it's much more smoother, which again, when you're using a professional product, that's the level of detail you need to be able to achieve the finished product.
Very cool. So let's talk about pricing and availability of the 1200B.
Of course. So availability will be the end of October, which is great for us to launch in September and be available in October. Sometimes you launch a product and there's a huge gap between when it's available. So
especially in times like these.
People want the product, you want to launch it, you want people excited, and you want people to go and get it. So end of October is where we should see it available to people. In terms of pricing, it's priced US dollars at $385. Okay, so it's a really good price. If you compare that to maybe an M18 or whatever, it's a huge saving and comparable powers. What we are doing is the 1200 is now going to be sub 3.2. So we've made a slight decrease in that because we understand we now have a new product in the market that compares with the original.
And lastly, just to get an overview for an accessory like that Fresnel, how much would that set you back?
So in euros, the Fresnel is currently placed at 949, and that's inclusive of the VAT. So yeah, again, great value. What we have done on the new Fresnel is there's a slightly new design. Okay, so what we had originally was a singular plate underneath the lens, which made it difficult to angle it. We've now gone for a traditional yoke system, as you can see behind us. What that does give you is more availability in your terms of angles for lighting. So we were listening to people, what they said about the original Evoke. We've taken those kind of recommendations. We've made those adjustments to make sure the 1200B has a more suitable yoke, and that yoke on the Fresnel is also compatible with the original 1200 too.
Very cool. Thank you, Luke. And
thank you so much.
Have a good IBC.
Shall do. Take care.
And thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned to CineD and our YouTube channel for a lot more from IBC 2022. Thanks.